It's Saturday, March 14th, 2026. 20 years old this week, the History Center is. And we've got a great program this morning. Here's Jackie.
Hello, my name is Jackie Geringer McDermott, and we're recording live at the English Valley's History Center, which is having its 20th birthday today. And here is our first customer from the day that they opened. This would be Ron Van Berkom, VB as we call him, a retired teacher from the English Valley school system. This diary was written by Libby Wade. She was my dad's great aunt, and her full name was Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade. She is 75 years old in 1950. Here is a picture of Lib and her older brother, Henry Claypool. This was taken probably in the 1930s, early 1930s. October 10th, 1950. Still nice and bright. My foot is not much worse than usual. I got dinner, cooked chicken, and had the dishes washed. Minnie Zilmer came over. Only got to stay a little while. Company came to her house. She said Mrs. Carson is to have another operation. Skin grafting. Mr. Carson is staying at the Jefferson Hotel in Iowa City, too. Then can go to the hospital to visit from there. Minnie Zilmer lives across the street from Lib and does nursing for others in her home. Wilbur and Belle Carson are on the right and left in this picture with Pearl Warner in the center. The Carsons live just west of Minnie Zilmer across the street. Mrs. Carson has cancer and has been very ill. George Patterson is to go to the Army December 1st. Got deferred until his crop is taken care of. Minnie had company and had to go home. Elsie Miller and Mrs. Wine were here. Mrs. Wine will be 85 next February 7th. Looks much younger. I'm having trouble figuring out who the George Patterson is that was young enough to go to the Army in 1950. It is not Minnie's father. Minnie Zilmer was a Patterson because he is elderly, and I don't see where she has a nephew named George. Maybe one of my listeners can tell me.
It was Scooney's boy.
Dave Jackson thinks he knows the answer, so I'll talk to him about it later. Elsie Miller is a neighbor from out at Green Valley, shown in this picture with her husband. She was the grandmother of the late Bob Miller, who was married to Kay Thurman, and the late Dick Miller, who was married to Bev Harris, who both lived east of North English. Mrs. Wine, who was with Elsie Miller, will be 85 years old on February 7th, 1951. She was born Barbara Virginia Flory, known as Virginia Flory, and was married to William Wine. They are both buried in the English River Church of the Brethren Cemetery near South English, and are the grandparents of George Wine Jr., a graduate of North English High School in 1949, who grew up to be the sports information director at the University of Iowa and a friend of Coach Hayden Fry. We have the book that he and Hayden Fry wrote at the History Center. It's called A High Porch Picnic. Anna O'Brien White brought some pears from her mother's for me. Don't know how much they were. I'll see Mrs. O'Brien. Anna O'Brien White is here in a picture with her grandmother, Minnie Healy, up on Cherokee Hill. Some of Anna's siblings were Ellen Gerard and Ed O'Brien. Anna O'Brien White, her mother's name was Susie O'Brien. And here's a picture of Susie O'Brien and her husband, John O'Brien. Susie O'Brien lived down the block from Lib in this house, recently owned by her great-grandson, John O'Brien. I received a birthday card from Neola, a very cute one. Naomi Morrison came in. She is selling cards. I was wishing I had some birthday cards to send. I bought some from her and have them addressed, ready to send. I don't know who Neola was. Maybe one of my listeners can tell me. Naomi Morrison, who brought the cards for Lib to buy, recently passed away at the English Valleys Care Center at the age of 96. She was the mother of Maxine Morrison Huber, Earl Morrison, Merle Morrison, and my grade school classmate Joyce Morrison Gibson. Russell went back to the yard after supper. They have a lot of work now. I wrote to Hattie. Millie was in a while in the late p.m. Russell Wade is Lib's youngest son, and she lives with him in his house. Russell works at the local lumber yard called the Home Lumber Company, just a block away. Hattie Killian is Lib's neighbor, and she is in the hospital in Iowa City after a hysterectomy, and she is fighting cancer. Millie Knipper is another widowed neighbor. October 11th, 1950. Partly cloudy this morning. We were kept awake part of the night by the neighbor's dog. I wonder how those nearer slept at all. Russell took my letters and cards to the post office. My foot hurts, but I can still get around. Made vegetable stew for dinner. I liked it as well as what we buy. The twins and Claudia were here. The older ones got pretty noisy, and I sent them home. The twins could have been Ronnie Popham, and Donnie Popham, who were about 3 years old and lived in the same block as Lib in 1950. Claudia Wade, shown here in her graduation picture, was the 2-year-old daughter of Lib's grandson Walter, or Bud, and his wife Frida Wade, and they also lived just around the corner on the same block as Lib. After dinner, Mary N. came. She got some stamps for me. Mary R. stopped in. She was going to Edith's. She expects to go to Sigourney to a dentist tomorrow. Mary Newhouse is another neighbor, and she often runs errands for Lib, since Lib has a bad foot. Mary Regseger is another neighbor who has been very sick but is now better. So she is getting her hair done and is going to the dentist. Mary is on the back right side of this picture with her late husband, Fred Regseger. Edith Brooke was a hairdresser uptown. I heard that Virginia Murphy's mother died in California recently. She has been an invalid for a long time, cancer in the spine. Her sister is a polio victim. Can walk with crutches. Would like to come and live with Virginia. Virginia Murphy and her husband Leroy Murphy are Lib's young married neighbors. Virginia's mother was Mrs. Bertha Turvey, age 53, from San Diego, according to the North English Record. Mrs. Bolts was here a while. She thinks her son will come for her Sunday. I asked her up for a dinner tomorrow. Received a card from Luella. Mrs. Bolts brought me one too. Elizabeth or Lizzie Bolts was Lib's 89-year-old neighbor who expects to go stay with her family for the winter. Luella Claypool Bailey is Lib's great niece, the daughter of her nephew Jonathan, or Jaunty Claypool. Lib's birthday is next week, so the cards are starting to arrive. October 12th, 1950, 5 p.m. First I've written today. I prepared dinner. Mrs. Bolts came. She expects to go away Sunday. We had a very simple meal. Stew of vegetables and meat broth, apples, white cherries, sweet potatoes, etc., and coffee, of course. Afternoon, we listened to radio. Lena came. They came home from their trip Monday evening. Had a nice time, I think. Stopped at Ronald Sears's. Lena Wade was Lib's daughter-in-law, as she was married to Lib's son, Warren or Mike Wade. Ronald Sears, that they visited on vacation, was an uncle to Kathy O'Rourke from North English. He was the older brother of Kathy's mother, Grace Sears Kaiser. Ronald Sears lived at Camdenton, Missouri, where he worked for the city for several years and then was a cabinet maker, according to the information I found online. Stella was here this p.m. and Mary Regsteger. Mary had been to Sigourney, was tired, stayed here until near evening. Stella Wallace was Lena's mother and a friend of Lib's as well as a neighbor. The Merlin Strasser sale is today. Merlin and Wilda Strasser are selling all their household goods. Here's the sale bill. Merlin and Wilda Strasser were having a sale, and Merlin was a World War II vet and a member of the reserves who has been called for military service. Their home has been sold to the newly married Mr. and Mrs. Bob Schaefer, and Mrs. Strasser, whose first name was Wilda, was taking their 2 children to Nebraska to live with her family. Merlin and Wilda returned to North English to spend the rest of their lives after his obligation with the service was finished. And here's a picture of the Strasser family in 1981. Merlin and Wilda are the older couple in back. I especially knew Wilda very well, for she worked at our dime store uptown called Kirkpatrick Variety. Kirkpatrick Variety was owned by the parents of my friend Helen Kirkpatrick Schwiedert from Colesburg, Iowa and Lake Placid, Florida, and her sister Mary. The Rotary supper was tonight at the hall. Rebecca's are serving it. Rotary Club was a group of businessmen who were organized into a service club. The Rebeccas were a women's social group to which Lib belongs but rarely attends now due to her health. The Rotary dinner was being held at the IOOF hall, which was in the upstairs of this building, which we call the Locker Building, on Main Street. I received a card from Luella yesterday, and one with Minnie with a handkerchief enclosed. Very pretty. Minnie Claypool is Lib's only surviving sister-in-law. Minnie and Lib are treated to a family dinner together each year since their birthdays are only 1 year apart. Minnie's in the front row, and this is her husband and her 5 boys. I will be telling you about their party in 1950 in next week's diary installment. 8 years ago, Russell was inducted into the Army. A lot of boys are going now. Lib is very concerned about the escalating Korean conflict. Received several more cards today from Anna, Hattie, and Ruby Off. Anna Cray is Lib's married daughter from Texas. Hattie is her friend, Hattie Newberry Killian. And Ruby Off is the wife of the local attorney, Clarence Off. Flossie was here a while this p.m., was waiting until school was out so Barbara could go with her. Flossie West is the granddaughter of Lib's cousin Wallace Claypool. She and her daughter Barbara live with her parents, Millard and Molly Claypool, out in the country northeast of town in the area we call Yankee Point. Mrs. Addie Lockridge was here this a.m. She said Emma Richardson is leaving soon, is going to Oregon. Addie Lockridge is Lib's 83-year-old widowed neighbor. Friday, October 13th, 1950. Friday the 13th. Some dread a day like this. I'm glad I don't connect it with disaster. Lena came, and in a little while, Jenny came up. Jenny Wade is Lib's daughter-in-law, married to oldest son Wayne or Perky Wade. Lena and Jenny told about a banquet last night. It was the best they thought. A very good supper and served correctly. Some helped themselves to what was left. There's always someone who is greedy at a place like that. They talked of plans for Sunday, too. I received a card from Elsie. She expects to come in the PM. Elsie Parker was previously married to Lib's nephew, John C. Claypool, and lived neighbors to Lib at that time out in the country at Yankee Point, north and east of North English. Elsie plans to attend the joint birthday party for Lib and Aunt Minnie Claypool next Sunday. Ruth Bursler was in this forenoon. They haven't found a place yet. She wanted to see Emma Richardson, so she went over there. Ruth Bursler was the sister of Lib's friend, Hattie Newberry. Received more cards in the evening from Alice Fisher of Thayer, Iowa, Edith Wade, and John and Bertha G. Alice Fisher of Thayer, Iowa was born Alice Claypool and was a very distant cousin on the Claypool side. I only learned that by Googling her name and address. Lib was very interested in the Claypool history, so I am sure Lib heard about her somewhere, but I doubt if she Googled it. Edith Wade was Lib's sister-in-law, married to Alexis or Lec Wade. The Wades are the grandparents of my regular listeners, Mick Wade and his sister Bunny Pfeiffer. John and Bertha Geringer are my grandparents, and they're on the left down here, and Bertha is Lib's niece. Powell from South English rang about a range, but Russell had already bargained for one from Don Hall. He bought it tonight, a very nice one. Makes me wonder if I can get used to it. John Powell ran a store in South English in the brick business block. He must have heard that Lib and Russell were looking for a range, so he called her on the telephone. Don Hall ran an appliance store on Main Street in North English. Wilbur and Neva were here and admired the new stove. Russell went to the yard with Wilbur to do some weighing. The name of the range is Gibson. A little damage done in shipping. Don will have it replaced. Did I show you the picture of Don? I can't remember if I showed the picture of Don Hall or not. There he is. Wilbur and Neva Cray were friends, and Richard were friends, and Wilbur was the brother of Lib's son-in-law in Texas, Richard Cray. I wanted to mention here that the reason that they were going to the home lumber company to weigh something is that there was a nifty scale at the lumber company to weigh things on. You just drove on it and it weighed the object. And that's the end of the diary portion for today. The English Valley History Center has been operating on Main Street in North English since 2006. The center operates a museum, monthly programming, and a community coffee shop, and provides meeting spaces for groups and organizations. These include family and class reunions, celebrations, gatherings, and club meetings. The History Center offers all of its services by donations only. It does not have annual memberships like many other historical organizations and relies largely on private and community donations. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and donations are tax deductible. Your support of the History Center would help continue its operations and provide a valuable community asset. Please send donations to the English Valley History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English, Iowa 52316. This is a reminder that the next alumni luncheon group will meet at the Main Street Pub and Grub in North English on Monday, March 23rd at 11:30 a.m. Please contact Linda Holden Carter or Alice Flooring Stramer for reservations. Here is a list of programs that will be featured at the History Center in 2026. For more information, you could join the English Valley History Center Facebook page or do a pause on this screen if you're watching on YouTube. Randy Feiselman will start us off on Sunday, March 29th at 2 p.m. with a discussion of her recent book, The Union First, Community and Commitment in the 1st Iowa Infantry. Bob and Christy Black will be singing and playing Civil War music too. I'm excited for this program because my friends Yuta and Maury Denson from Marengo will be attending because they know Randy.
No. No. I was down in
Correspondence. Julie Miller Baker from Wellman said, very interesting. Pam Kavanaugh Shield from Cedar Rapids said, interesting broadcast, Jackie. Learn more about your family each time. I ran into my friend Patty Herr, who volunteers at bingo at the Keokuk County Fairgrounds in Waucheer on Sundays. She said it was nice to see me in person instead of on TV. Lib's Sibs, Part 3. I'm going to tell you about 3 of Lib Claypool Wade's siblings today, and we will save her brother Vernie's family for another time very soon. John Forsey Claypool. John Forsey Claypool was Lib's next older brother. He was named for his grandpa, John Forsey Hinkle, who was the father of their mother, Anne Mariah Claypool. Forsey was the maiden name of John Forsey Hinkle's mother. John is the one in the far left corner of this picture. This is Lib's family taken in 1894. You might remember that Lib is the young girl in the center of the page. In the family picture of the entire Jonathan Claypool family in 1907, Lib is standing next to the pole on the left side holding baby Russell, and her brother John Forsey Claypool is on the other side of the pole behind her. And in the last picture we have of him, we see John Forsey Claypool by himself. He passed away after a tragic farm accident in 1913 at age 42. At first it was thought he would live, but he was overtaken by tetanus, something that is easily prevented by a vaccination nowadays. Losing him was particularly tragic for Lib's family because he lived in the family home with his parents, and Lib's 4 small children also resided there. Lib's brother Henry Claypool. Here is a picture of them together. Lib's brother Henry Claypool lived to be 68 years old and died in 1933. He was a farmer and a businessman. Henry and brother Benton were both born in Ohio before the family moved to Iowa. Henry married Daisy Mall, and they are shown in the family picture from 1894 in the back right corner. By the time of the 1907 family picture, they had adopted Peter Glock from Parnell and renamed him Ralph Claypool. Ralph is the second kid from the left in the front row, and his parents are up against the wall behind him. Ralph Claypool attended North English High School and enlisted in 1917 into the Aviation Corps in World War I, stationed overseas for many months. He married and had 3 children and then became sick and was moved to the Veterans Home at Knoxville, where he passed away in 1936 at age 37. He had some mysterious illness that he and all of the children passed away from at an early age, which might have been myasthenia gravis. His Aunt Beth Holmes received some paperwork one time from the university hospitals studying exactly what Ralph and his family died from. And here's a picture of Ralph with his parents, Daisy and Henry Claypool. Lib's only sister, Sarah Myrtle Claypool Mall. In the family picture from 1894, Myrtle is standing next to her brother John Forsey Claypool in the back row, holding her baby girl, Ermelda Mall. Her husband, John Josiah Mall Jr., or J.J. Mall, is standing next to her. Myrtle and J.J. had 8 children. However, their only biological grandchildren were Vaughn Holmes and Betty Shaw. Vaughn Holmes, the son of Beth and Harold Holmes, lived in Central City and was a letter carrier for the Cedar Rapids post office. He was married to Anna Lee Lawrence, whose husband had been killed, and they raised their children together. Their daughter, Brenda Sue Holmes, died in an automobile accident at age 17. Betty Mall was the daughter of Jack Mall and Ruth Calvin, and she married Wayne Shaw, and they lived in North English. Their 3 children were Becky Shaw, who was in the EV class of 1964, Vicky Shaw, who was in the class of 1969, and Rick Shaw, who was in the class of 1976. My dad was very interested in his great aunt Myrtle Mall because she had diabetes the same as he did. My dad was a type 1 diabetic, and he knew of no one else in his own generation that had it. As I have said before, John and Myrtle Mall had 8 children, but several of them suffered ill health and likely were diabetic. Their children were Benton Mall, who died at age 6 months, Ermilda Mall, Ermilda lived to age 35. Phoebe Mall lived to be age 72 and is buried in New Mexico. And then there was Esther Mall, who lived to age 3, and Jessie Mall, who lived to age 5. John Josiah Mall Jr., or Jack Mall, lived to age 51. He was married to Ruth Calvin and was the father of Betty Shaw of North English. Betty's mother remarried Lake Edens after her divorce, so her name was Ruth Edens, and she lived in North English. Olin Mall graduated from North English High School. He's the second person on the right in the front row in this picture. This is the football team in 1920. Olin and his wife Harriet lived in Austin, Minnesota. The youngest child in the Mall family, Beth Mall, was married to Harold Holmes. Their son was Vaughn Holmes. Beth and Harold Holmes lived in Kyoto, and she was a great help to me when I first started working on family history. Beth was very close to her Aunt Lib. Her own parents had been gone for a long time, and she came to visit Aunt Lib often. And here are J.J. Mall and his wife Myrtle and their children who reached adulthood. In the back, Jack Mall Jr., Phoebe, Olin, and Ermilda. And in the front, Myrtle, Beth, and J.J. Mall. Our condolences this week to the family of Mary Sue Hawk, who recently passed away. She was Mary Sue Grove from South English in 1957 when she graduated from English Valley High School. Our sympathies this week to the family of Charles D. Brower from the class of 1961, who was known as Douglas Brower when he attended English Valleys. He was the brother of Greg, Carolyn, Kevin, Keith, and Lori Brower. Our prayers are with the family of Leslie Slabaugh from Wellman. She was Leslie Hogendorn when she graduated from English Valleys with the class of 1965. And we have just learned of the passing of Lola Martin. Lola was a wonderful woman of faith. Dave Jackson said she and Ed were frequent visitors to the History Center in the early days, and her rhubarb crisps and coffee cakes. I knew Lola after I started my broadcast, as she was a frequent listener and talked to me when I saw her at bingo. There is a special quilt from Lola that hangs in the front of the History Center, and I'll show it to you in a second. It will be cherished as a lasting tribute to her. Lola is the one in the orange in this picture. And here she is shown with a quilt. And this is the masterpiece that hangs in the front of the History Center near the window. Be sure to look at it if you're ever in here. We are also interested in learning about historical English Valleys items that you might wish to donate. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, or any board member to donate. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.